They was not scared of Suge Knight. They was terrified of Suge Knight.
Right.
I mean, terrified.
He's the infamous co-founder of Death Row Records, a longtime figure of fear in the American rap industry. This fear isn't merely a result of his physical stature, but more significantly, the influence and control he had over artists' lives and careers. His reputation for intimidation and alleged involvement in violent incidents made him a daunting figure, with many rappers expressing their apprehension, attributing their fear of him to what we're about to reveal in this eye-opening video. Without wasting time, here are 4 reasons rappers are really scared of Suge Knight, a violent bully. Come to think of it, there seems to always be some sort of fear factor surrounding individuals of such bulky sizes as Suge Knight. Just imagine encountering someone of his stature in a dark alley. It's enough to send shivers down anyone's spine. Suge Knight's reputation as a violent bully is well known and well documented throughout the rap industry, with numerous accounts of intimidation and violence to his name. Growing up in the tough streets of Compton, situated south of downtown Los Angeles, it's no surprise that he became one of the biggest bullies in the game. Knight's bullying behavior reportedly began in his childhood. As a boy, the death row mogul shook down rich kids for their lunch money. Called Sugar Bear as a child because his mom thought he was just so sweet. His imposing physical stature of 6.2 feet tall with a weight of around 250 pounds and aggressive demeanor made him a feared figure. Suge was a star football player at Linwood High School and even attended the University of Nevada, but his involvement with the Blood Street Gang hinted at his future notorious behavior. Suge's upbringing exposed him to a world of violence and gang activity, shaping his persona long before he entered the rap industry. Despite his athletic achievements and academic pursuits, his association with the Blood Street Gang foreshadowed the notoriety he would later attain. This environment cultivated a demeanor of dominance and aggression, setting the stage for his controversial actions within the music business. After a short-lived professional football career that saw him play for the Los Angeles Rams and make 2 appearances, he became a celebrity bodyguard, most notably for musician Bobby Brown. However, it was his entry into the music industry that truly amplified his reputation as a bully, and most notably, his encounter with rapper Vanilla Ice. But before discussing the incident with Ice, it's worth noting that Suge established Death Row Records thanks to bullying. After realizing the real money in the music industry dwelled in the ownership of the music itself, he started a record company with Dr. Dre of Wit Attitudes, also NWA, a hip-hop group having the likes of Ice Cube, MC Ren, Eazy-E, DJ Yella, and Dr. Dre himself. According to reports, Suge got Dre out of his contract by threatening his label owner, Eazy-E, with baseball bats and getting the seed money for the project by threatening to throw Vanilla Ice off a balcony. Given such a beginning, it's no wonder that the subsequent chapters of his music career were filled with almost mythical accounts of brutal chaos. Without mincing words, Suge's encounter with Ice is a prime example of his bullying tactics. In the early 1990s, the rapper was at the height of fame with the hit song Ice Ice Baby. According to Ice, he first met Knight at a restaurant in LA, where Suge and his entourage, who were uninvited, sat next to him. This encounter marked the beginning of a series of intimidating incidents. Per reports, Vanilla Ice had refused to pay royalties to Mario Johnson, a ghostwriter who wrote some material for Ice Ice Baby for him. It turned out Suge wanted a huge chunk of that royalty money and made to get it by all means. Approaching Ice several times to persuade him to sign up the royalties and failing, Suge tried using another means, the bully style.
I check into a hotel in LA. I walk in the room, pull the key out, and I look in there and Suge's already in the room with about 5 other guys. And I'm like, whoa.
You heard that right. Suge was already waiting for him in the room with 6 individuals armed with guns. The death row mogul then asked him to come in while his men roughed up Vanilla Ice's bodyguards and entourage, and Knight took him out on the balcony, which was 15 floors up. Here, Knight allegedly threatened to throw Vanilla Ice off the balcony unless he signed over the royalties for Ice Ice Baby to Suge. The rapper, fearing for his life, complied. Another incident highlighting Suge's bullying perchance occurred in 1992. During Death Row Records' early days, Dr. Dre invited aspiring rappers Linwood and George Stanley for a recording session. Of course, it was a dream opportunity for them, but something spooky happened several minutes after Suge arrived at the studio. Linwood, needing to make a call, unknowingly used a phone reserved only for drug kingpin Harry O, who at the time was the main financier of Death Row. Suge, spotting Linwood, approached him with a commanding presence, giving him a chance to step away from the phone peacefully by saying, "Say, blood, don't be on that phone." However, Linwood, unaware of Suge's identity, responded with a dismissive tone, naively retorting, "Don't be coming at me with all that gangbang shit. "I'm not from LA," to which the mogul, embarrassed, replied, "I'm so sorry, I didn't realize you're not from LA. Please use all my phones." With his embarrassment quickly transforming into a menacing rage, Suge pulled a gun, forcing the Stanleys to strip down to their underwear and subjected them to a brutal beating. Isn't that absolutely terrifying? Well, wait to hear the next story about Suge's ruthlessness. In an interview, rapper Kurupt revealed even more disturbing details about how Suge Knight treated those who worked for him. Kurupt disclosed that Suge made all his workers pee in a bucket, and whenever they messed up, they had to drink it. Suge would say, "Drink the piss or I'll whip your ass for real," and oh boy, they actually did it. This level of control and intimidation is unimaginable. Suge's bullying tactics extended beyond individual encounters. He reportedly used violence and intimidation to control artists and negotiate business deals. It didn't help that he never cared about and would even attack a woman if he ever felt like doing so. In a documentary called Live from Death Row, the label's photographer, Simone Green, narrated a horrifying experience with Suge Knight. Simone revealed that Suge assaulted her while his crew members held her down. This incident occurred during a meeting about a receptionist who was selling marijuana at the front desk. Suge blamed Simone for the incident, but she claimed that he apologized years later. Additionally, the man frequently found himself in public fights, many of which were captured on camera. He never backed down from a fight, even if it was over the smallest thing. In 2014, Suge was caught on camera assaulting an employee from a pot shop simply because the employee wouldn't let him enter the facility without his medical marijuana card. Suge proceeded to give the employee a beating of a lifetime, and the employee pressed charges against him. Indeed, Suge Knight was the boogeyman of hip-hop, and his reputation as a bully has profoundly impacted the rap industry. His tactics have been criticized for promoting a culture of fear and violence. Despite his contributions to the industry, his legacy is marred by his bullying behavior and alleged involvement in violent incidents. His disregard for others' well-being and his willingness to use violence to get what he wanted created an atmosphere of fear and intimidation, making him highly dreaded in the industry. Insane criminal history. It's safe to describe Suge Knight as someone who didn't play by the rules. This means that for the most part, he only did what he wanted, paying no attention to any consequences his bad actions could lead to. Therefore, he was big into a life of criminality, causing harm to many and putting himself on the wrong side of the law. It's hard to know where to begin with Suge's criminal record, but his criminal history is extensive, spanning back to 1987. That year, in October, police arrested and charged him with domestic violence for assaulting his girlfriend, Sharitha Golden, and cutting off her ponytail. This act of violence set the tone for his future run-ins with the law, and by the early 1990s, he'd become a regular guest in jail cells. Barely 2 weeks after his assault on Golden on Halloween, Suge was arrested for shooting the driver in the leg and wrist while attempting to steal his Nissan Maxima. He was also charged with attempted murder, but later secured a plea deal, pleading guilty to a misdemeanor charge, and was placed on probation for 2 years with a $1,000 fine. In 1990, while in Las Vegas, Suge used a loaded pistol to break a man's jaw, resulting in a $9,000 fine and a 2-year suspended sentence. Now accustomed to confrontations with the law, Suge's violent tendencies continued to escalate, and if convictions and arrests were an Olympic sport, he would have taken home the gold in 1992. Apart from being convicted twice for assault with a deadly weapon, each time receiving suspended sentences, he faced convictions for carrying a concealed weapon in West Covina and for disturbing the peace in Van Nuys. As if that weren't sufficient, he assaulted and fired shots at George and Linwood Stanley, who had used the death row office phones without permission. This incident violated the terms of his probation, leading to a plea of no contest and a 5-year probation sentence. That same year, Suge, Dr. Dre, and Doc were arrested during an incident in New Orleans in which 2 people were stabbed. Though it isn't clear who committed the crime, 2 people were clearly stabbed, and Suge was somehow involved. But Suge couldn't seem to stay out of trouble. On the night of Tupac's death in 1996, he violated his probation once again when he and Tupac, along with some crew members, assaulted Orlando Anderson. Suge was later arrested in February 1997 for assaulting Anderson and was later sentenced to 9 years in prison. Remember the assassinations of Tupac and Biggie? Well, if the rumors are true and Suge was indeed the chief brain behind both murders, that would make him even more enigmatic and nefarious than his already notorious reputation suggests. Nevertheless, suppose he indeed had nothing to do with the murders. The allegations that he orchestrated the killings of 2 of the most renowned rappers in history were enough to strike fear into the hearts of many. One would think that his ins and outs of jail up to the turn of the 21st century would somehow make him turn a new leaf for good. But even after his release in 2001, Suge's brushes with the law continued. In December of 2002, Suge was hauled back to jail for violating the terms of his release the previous year when he moved to Malibu without informing his parole officer. At the same time, the authorities stormed the new offices of Death Row Records during a murder investigation, although Suge himself wasn't implicated. However, they discovered the mogul in the company of several gang members, a direct violation of his parole conditions. As a result, he found himself back behind bars, spending 60 61 days in lockup. More troubles followed. In June 2003, the Death Row co-owner was involved in a parking lot incident where he resorted to violence and assaulted an attendant, thereby violating his parole. Consequently, he was sent back to prison, where he served a 10-month sentence. This incident not only added to his growing list of legal troubles, but also reinforced the public's perception of Suge as a volatile and unpredictable figure. Later in February 2005, he once again found himself in the spotlight, this time due to a seemingly minor traffic violation that would escalate into something more serious, resulting in his arrest and putting him back in the legal crosshairs. It all started when he was pulled over for making an illegal U-turn in his vehicle. What seemed like a routine traffic stop took a surprising turn when a search of his vehicle led to the discovery of marijuana. As a result, Suge was promptly arrested, facing charges of possession. In 2008, however, he again made headlines for all the wrong reasons. This time, the incident unfolded outside a strip club in Las Vegas, adding another chapter to his long list of legal troubles. According to reports, police arrested Suge for drug and assault violations. Allegedly, he'd beaten up his girlfriend, Melissa Isaac, outside the strip club. The details surrounding the incident were shocking, leaving the public's fascination with Suge's tumultuous personal life only growing stronger. However, the case took an unexpected turn when Isaac failed to show up to court to testify against Knight. As a result, the charges against him were dropped, and he remained a free man, ready to commit more atrocities. In 2012, he was arrested for driving with a suspended license in possession of marijuana. He was placed on 2 years of unsupervised probation. Also, in 2013, he faced legal trouble due to a traffic violation that resulted in a significant financial burden. Knight was pulled over for a traffic violation while driving with a suspended license. The violation may have seemed minor, but it had severe consequences. As a result, he paid a hefty $20,000 bail to secure his release. In 2014, Suge faced yet another legal battle, this time involving comedian Cat Williams. He and Williams were accused of stealing a camera from a photographer and inflicting minor injuries on an unlucky photographer during a Beverly Hills robbery. This accusation resulted in serious charges against them. Given the Death Row co-owner's previous encounters with the law, he faced the possibility of up to 30 years in prison for violating his conditions. Nevertheless, he maintained his innocence and entered a plea of not guilty. The legal proceedings garnered substantial attention from the public, eager to witness how Knight's past would influence the outcome. Later, in 2015, Suge was arrested in connection with a fatal hit-and-run accident that claimed the life of Terry Carter. Reports suggest he ran over Carter while trying to flee from an attack at a hamburger joint. He was detained on suspicion of premeditated murder. Let's rewind a bit. From the late 1980s into the early 2000s and beyond, Suge spent a few years incarcerated for numerous crimes, including assault convictions and associated violations of probation and parole. The list of crimes he committed is so long that we won't be able to discuss all of them because of time. But you get the idea. He always loved to look for trouble, leaving many genuinely afraid of him. In September 2018, he pled no contest to voluntary manslaughter in the fatal 2015 hit and run, and currently, Suge Knight is serving a 28-year prison sentence. King of West Coast, Death Row Records, founded by Suge Knight and Dr. Dre, had a grand vision from the very beginning, to become the biggest record company in the world. And with the talent it brought together, it seemed like that vision was well within reach. The label became a comet-like streak of success, turning everything it touched into gold. Meanwhile, Suge would go on to become one of the most influential figures in the hip-hop industry, earning himself a place as the kingpin of West Coast rap. But with success came danger and violence. Suge Knight, the controversial CEO, was a man known for his intimidating size and his reputation as a gangster. He had a history of assault and was deeply involved in gangs, guns, and drugs. Suge's wild actions only added to his mythical and feared persona. Remember the incident involving him allegedly hanging Vanilla Ice over a balcony? Yes, that display of power sent shockwaves across the rap industry. Not only was Suge the king of West Coast hip-hop, he was also a central figure in gangster rap's commercial success in the 1990s. Throughout the period, his imprint on the genre was memorable, shaping the sound and culture of gangster rap, and even the rivalries of West Coast hip-hop. To understand Suge Knight's impact on the rap scene and why he was considered the king of West Coast hip-hop and feared for it, one must first grasp the historical context of the regional genre, more so its era of rivalry with East Coast hip-hop. Emerging in the late 1980s, West Coast hip-hop provided a stark contrast to its East Coast counterpart. While East Coast rap focused on intricate lyricism and gritty urban narratives, West Coast rap embraced a funk-infused sound characterized by its laid-back vibes and tales of California street life. The Focal points of the rivalry between both groups were East Coast-based rapper Biggie Smalls with Puff Daddy and their New York City-based Bad Boy Records, and West Coast-based rapper Tupac Shakur with Suge Knight and their Los Angeles-based Death Row Records. The origins of this rivalry can be traced back to 1991 when frustrated rapper Tim Dog released a song dissing the West Coast. This was due to the rejection of many East Coast artists in favor of West Coast artists of the time. Whereas Diddy played a pivotal role in advancing East Coast hip-hop, Suge served as the brainbox behind the successes of the West Coast. Suge's influence on West Coast rap cannot be overstated. At the forefront of this burgeoning scene was Death Row Records. As the head of Death Row, he helped shape West Coast rap's sound and image. With an iron-fisted approach to management and an uncanny ability to spot talent, Knight quickly propelled Death Row to the forefront of the rap game. Under his stewardship, the label became synonymous with West Coast rap, serving as the launching pad for some of the genre's most iconic artists. Central to Death Row's success was its roster of superstar acts, chief among them being Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, and Tupac Shakur. With Dre's groundbreaking production, Snoop's laid-back flow, and Tupac's incendiary lyricism, Death Row churned out hit after hit, dominating the airwaves and the charts. Together, they crafted a sound that epitomized the essence of West Coast rap, drawing legions of fans and inspiring countless imitators. But beyond the collaborative efforts that propelled the record and West Coast hip-hop to greater heights, Suge's aggressive business tactics always took the spotlight. He wasn't afraid to use intimidation to get what he wanted, and his reputation for violence added to the label's gangsta image. Despite his controversial methods, there's no denying that Knight had an ear for talent. He was instrumental in launching the careers of some of the biggest names in hip-hop, and the success of Death Row Records helped to establish the West Coast as a major force in the rap industry. With Death Row Records at the helm of West Coast hip-hop and Suge at the helm of affairs within the label, it was obvious who ran the game. Within Death Row, his words were law, and disobedience to them often led to danger. It's said he always had a group of guys with him, often recruiting bloods from the neighborhood for security. Their presence served as both protection and a means to carry out acts of violence or extortion. And should anyone dare challenge him, they were mostly sure to be met with tragedy. Obviously, Suge's influence extended beyond mere musical innovation within the West Coast. He was also a key player in the infamous East Coast-West Coast rap feud that gripped the hip-hop world in the mid-1990s, sparked by a combination of personal animosity, industry politics, and media. Sensationalism, the rivalry between the two regional genres, escalated to dangerous levels, culminating in Tupac and Biggie's tragic murders. While Suge's involvement in these events remains a subject of debate and speculation, there's no denying the impact they had on the rap landscape. The deaths of Tupac and Biggie not only robbed the rap world of two of its most talented artists, but also cast a dark shadow over the entire hip-hop community, underscoring the consequences of unchecked animosity and violence. It also did something else. It created a fear factor around Suge, so much so that rappers from both West Coast and East Coast were afraid of him. With legal troubles, including charges of racketeering, assault, and conspiracy, plaguing him throughout the 1990s and 2000s, many were careful in their dealings with the rap mogul, who showed high tendencies to employ violence and intimidation as tools of business. Several artists, including lean-back singer Fat Joe, alluded to Suge's charisma and the fear he commanded each time he walked into a place. Once, during an interview uploaded on Matt Hoffa's YouTube page, the rapper narrated his first encounter with Suge during an awards ceremony. Suge had walked into the room where he and other artists were, leading to the artists in the room scampering out of fear for the mogul. Joe, not mincing words, stated that they weren't just afraid of Suge Knight, they were terrified of Suge Knight. Hardly did anyone try to mess with him, and those who mistakenly did, like Linwood and George Stanley, witnessed his wrath. Even despite his fall from grace, Suge's legacy endures. His contributions to West Coast rap are undeniable, shaping the genre in ways that continue to reverberate today. Knight's impact on hip-hop remains etched in history, from his groundbreaking work with Death Row Records to his role in shaping the East Coast-West Coast rivalry, leaving no doubt he will forever be remembered as the kingpin of West Coast rap. Today, Death Row Records' influence can still be felt across the hip-hop landscape. Artists like Kendrick Lamar, who hails from Compton and embodies the spirit of West Coast rap, carry on the legacy of Suge Knight and Death Row, keeping the flame of West Coast hip-hop burning bright. While the West Coast era may have come to an end, its impact on hip-hop and rap will be felt for generations to come, ensuring that Suge Knight's legacy lives on as the feared kingpin of West Coast rap. Involvement in Tupac and Biggie Smalls assassinations. The deaths of Tupac Shakur and Biggie Smalls, two of the most influential figures in the American rap industry, have been shrouded in mystery and controversy, and undoubtedly remain the most talked about tragedies in the rap industry. Speculations and conspiracy theories have swirled around these murders for decades, implicating various figures in the rap industry, with one name consistently being linked to both cases, the name Suge Knight. On the fateful night of September 7, 1996, Tupac Shakur, also known as Tupac, was riding in a car driven by Suge, the co-owner of Death Row Records, the label the rapper was signed to, when unknown assailants shot him multiple times in a drive-by shooting in Las Vegas, Nevada. 6 days later, he succumbed to his injuries. Just hours before the shooting, the rapper had been involved in a physical altercation with Orlando Baby Lane Anderson, a member of the rival Crips gang. This incident, coupled with the ongoing East Coast-West Coast rap feud, fueled rumors that Tupac's murder was a result of gang-related retaliation. In fact, some believe rival rapper Christopher Wallace, better known as Biggie Smalls or the Notorious Big, was responsible for the hit. 6 months after Tupac's death, on March 9, 1997, Biggie was also killed in a drive-by shooting in Los Angeles, California. The similarities between the shooting and Tupac's led to widespread speculation that Biggie was killed in retaliation for his rival's murder, but some believed otherwise. The deaths of Tupac and Biggie occurred during a time of intense rivalry between the East Coast and West Coast hip-hop scenes. Both were seen as the figureheads of both scenes, respectively. Suge, well known for his association with Tupac and his reputation as a powerful figure in the music industry, had much sway in many ongoing things in the rapper's life. By virtue of the East Coast and West Coast hip-hop rivalry between Biggie and Tupac causing friction with their respective record label personnel, and Suge being a leader within West Coast hip-hop, he was naturally Biggie's enemy, even though the pair didn't personally have beef. Suge, with his imposing physical stature and alleged involvement in various violent incidents, was already a feared figure in the industry. However, Tupac and Biggie's deaths further enhanced his fearsome reputation, as many believed he was involved in both murders. While his name was never directly linked to Tupac's murder, rumors that he orchestrated the rapper's assassination made the rounds. Also, after Biggie's death, many considered him to be responsible. Suge's alleged involvement in these incidents is based on several factors. Firstly, Tupac was signed to his label at the time of his death. Some suggested Suge had ordered the hit on Tupac to protect his interests and maintain control over Death Row Records. Reports suggest that following some shady politicking ongoing within the record, the rapper was in the process of leaving it for good and signing for another record before his death. Suge, unwilling to see him leave, decided to end his life. However, the Death Row co-owner himself claimed it was Biggie who had ordered the hit on Tupac. Another factor fueling the belief of Suge's involvement in Tupac's death is that he was with the rapper on the night he was shot. While the All Eyes on Me singer was shot 6 times, Suge, surprisingly, sustained no serious injuries despite the hail of bullets. Some speculate it's impossible that he didn't catch a bullet during the attack, pointing to a possible cooperation with Tupac's killers. Others, however, believe he took out Tupac himself that night. After Biggie's murder, many theorists were quick to point out the similarities between Tupac's death and his, affirming Suge was involved in both murders. The mogul had a well-known rivalry with Sean Combs, also known as Puff Daddy, or Diddy, who owned Bad Boy Records, the label to which Biggie was signed. Despite being incarcerated at the time of Biggie's murder, Suge's reputation for being dangerous and influential was so strong that people believed he could have ordered the hit from behind bars. After all, he considered Biggie a threat to Death Row's domination and needed to take him out at all costs to stay ahead of and control the game. The theory gained traction, and Suge became a central figure in the ongoing investigations into the deaths of both rappers. It didn't help matters when, almost 10 years after the incidents, LAPD detective Greg Carding reportedly discovered new information linking Diddy to the murder of Tupac. In 2006, after the reopening of Biggie's murder case, Carding claimed both rappers' deaths were related. While investigating Biggie's death, he discovered new information linking both cases. Carding states Diddy put a $1 million hit on both Tupac Shakur and Suge Knight, following the highly publicized rap beef involving himself and Biggie. The music mogul, having close gang ties in LA, hired Crips member Dwayne Keith Keffy D. Davis to carry out the hit. More so, Carding claims Orlando Anderson, who'd gotten into a fistfight with Pac at a Vegas casino hours before the shooting took place, actually pulled the hit that killed Tupac. He alleges the original hit was supposed to be carried out by Keffy D. However, plans were changed at the last minute after they unexpectedly pulled up on the wrong side of the vehicle Tupac and Suge were in. That moment, Keffy's nephew carried out the hit instead, killing Tupac and injuring Suge. Although Carding says Biggie played no part in Tupac's murder despite their well-documented rap beef, he alleged Suge paid $13,000 to Bloods gang member Wardell Poochie Faust, who allegedly murdered the rapper in retaliation for the hit on Tupac and Suge. While Carding's claims add to the long list of controversies surrounding the deaths of Tupac and Biggie, it's just to state that they were never proven to be true, leaving many holding on to the belief that Suge was the mastermind in both murders. The deaths of Tupac Shakur and Biggie Smalls sent shockwaves through the rap industry and beyond. The loss of these two iconic figures not only left a void in the music world, but also highlighted the dangers and violence that plagued the hip-hop scene during that era. Rappers and artists feared for their lives, knowing that even the biggest stars weren't immune to the deadly consequences of the East Coast-West Coast feud. To this day, the two murders remain largely unsolved, with investigations marred by a lack of cooperation, witness intimidation, and a web of conflicting theories. While Suge Knight's involvement in these tragic events has never been definitively proven, his name continues to be associated with the deaths of two of rap's greatest legends. Despite the allegations against him, no concrete evidence has been found to implicate Suge in either or both murders. However, his name continues to be associated with the deaths of two of rap's greatest legends, and the speculation and controversy surrounding these incidents have contributed to his reputation as a feared figure in the rap industry. Until today, the legacy of the two influential artists lives on, forever intertwined with the enigmatic figure of Suge Knight, who remains a feared figure in the world of American rap. Did you enjoy this video? Click on the card currently showing on your screen for other interesting videos.